Imagine thinking you're punk but looking exactly like everyone else. Punk isn't the t-shirt you're wearing, the tattoos you have, the music you listen to. It's a frame of mind. Always has been, always will be.
Okay, picture this. You're 14 and you just spent 3 hours perfecting your MySpace top 8. Your banks are sideswept so hard that they basically a hate crime against your forehead. You're not just a person, you're a thing, kids. And that bunnies will speak subculture energy. Welcome to my video, I'm Kira. Today we're diving into how subcultures were born, how they ruled the world for a hot minute, and why they are kinda dying. Spoiler, it's the TikTok's fault, but we'll get there. So what is a subculture? A subculture is basically a group of informal people. We always seek for people who think like us, with the same values and goals. So this is how big communities of like-minded people are emerging. But of course, these communities have their own misunderstandings and conflicts inside. So eventually, some part of it separates from the other mass. We see it since the start of 20th century, like dandies, and in our days like Tumblr kids. But what changed? Subcultures were always tight-knit communities. Born a punk, die a punk. I also had my emo phase, we all had. So when I say subcultures are on life support, it's personal. In this video, we're gonna unpack how they started, why they hit their prime, and why now in 2025, I'm scrolling TikTok wondering if a cottagecore lesbian is a subculture or just a really good Pinterest board. They got roots, and these roots go deep, like very deep. Let's start in the mid-20th century, 1950, because that's when beatniks appeared. Their origins come from USA. These were the OGs of rejecting the mainstream. They preferred spiritual world to earth. While they rant about capitalism and jazz, they were basically the hipsters of their day, but with much more existential dread. They appeared post-World War II, when the vibes were all conform, get a 9 to 5, salute the picket fence. But beatniks chose bohemian lifestyle, listening to jazz and wearing loose clothes. They set the blueprints. Subcultures are born when people feel suffocated by the status quo. It escalated up to 60s. Hippies. The ideology was about free love and peace. These guys took the beatnik rebellion and cranked it up to 11, trashing the Vietnam War and consumerism. They were all about communes and questionable hygiene choices. Also, they were quite controversial subculture. They used illegal drugs, which we don't support. If you remember such festival as the Woodstock, many of people who were there were hippies. Overall, it were good vibes. Subcultures were now loud, colorful, and impossible to ignore. They made rebellion a lifestyle, and they proved subcultures needed a spark, something to push against. War, economic stagnation. Fast forward to the 70s, and we get an important phenomena: punks. This is where subcultures go feral, in the best way. The economy's tanking, everyone in depression, and punks were like, you know what? I'm gonna oppose the system, shave half my head, scream about anarchy. They listened to Sex Pistols, Ramones. It was anti-everything. Anti-establishments, anti-fashion. These people were, such an art form. What ties these early subcultures together? A few things. 1. Their reactions. Post-war conformity, Cold War paranoia, industrial gloom. People needed an out. 2. Their physical. You had to be there. At the jazz club, the protest, the dingy basement gig. And 3. Their tied to youth. Teens and 20-somethings with too much angst and not enough credit card debt. This is the recipe. A pissed off generation, a killer soundtrack, and a look that screams, I dare you to judge me. So that's the origin story. Subcultures start as tiny rebellions, little middle fingers to the man. And they grow because people crave belonging, especially when the world feels like a dumpster fire. But here's the thing. They're about to hit their peak, and it's glorious. Next up, we're talking the golden age. Welcome to the golden age of subcultures, aka the 80s through the early 2000s. This is peak subculture, when the freaks weren't just surviving, they were thriving, and they had enough hairspray to punch a hole in their zone. The 80s kicked it off with a bang, or maybe a synth rev. Punk was still kicking, but now it's sharing the stage. You've got goths, black lace, Bauhaus records, looking like they just crawled out of a Victorian crypt. Absolute legends. The rave scene was ecstasy-fueled, warehouse parties, day-glow outfits, and very repetitive beats. And don't sleep on hip-hop. Block parties turning into Run DMC tracks, breakdancing crews and graffiti that said, "I was here," louder than any billboard. They had their own lifestyle, fashion and music. Punk clubs, skate parks, basements were the places where they collected. This was the era of subcultural capital, a term I'm totally stealing from sociologist Pierre Bourdieu. You weren't just a fan. Take hip-hop. You had to know the difference between East Coast and West Coast flows, or you'd soon be booted out. Or skaters. Landing a kickflip wasn't enough. You had to wear it in your scuffed Vans and baggy cargo shorts, like a uniform. These groups built their own worlds, brick by rebellious brick, and that's what made them untouchable. If you owned a skateboard but never used it, click subscribe. Alright bunnies, let's see how the internet flipped the subculture script. By the early 2000s, those IRL punk clubs and skate parks started getting some serious online competition. Enter the digital age. Online forums, MySpace, and early Tumblr burst onto the scene, and suddenly subcultures weren't just local, they went global. Every little kid received the signal. Who thought he's the only one was shocked. The positives were unreal. Subcultures exploded with reach. Cosplays and fandoms turned into sprawling empires. Same kids with neon eyeliner found their people on MySpace. You didn't need a physical space anymore. The internet handed you a megaphone. A Wi-Fi signal could get you into the club. And the identity markers, they shifted hard. Forget safety pins and leather. Now it was all about profile aesthetics, custom layouts, and the perfect aim away message. Memes were shared, remixed, and fought over like sacred texts. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just amplification, it was transformation. Subcultures weren't tethered to a greedy DIY ethos anymore. They were living in the clouds. Sin kids didn't need to sneak into shows, they could live stream their Banks tutorial. Phantoms didn't need signs, they had fanfiction. The internet cracked open the gates, letting anyone with a dial-up connection pick inside. And while that was magical, it planted the seeds for something messy. How long could these groups stay exclusive when the whole world was watching? Spoiler alert, not long. By the late 2000s and into the 2010s, the internet had flung the doors wide open. And guess who RSVP'd? Corporations and pop culture, ready to cash in. What started as sacred underground vibes turned into aisle 5 at Hot Topic. Suddenly punk tees with pre-ripped holes were $25, and e-girl looks were just a TikTok filter away. The edge, there was the butter knife. Welcome to peak saturation, when subcultures went from rebel yells to ringtones. Here's the paradox. Visibility killed the vibe. Back in the day, being goth or emo meant digging through thrift stores for that perfect black trench, or crying to the Smiths in your bedroom, alone but part of something. Now, type goth outfit into Google and you've got a Shane Ho in your cart in 5 minutes. TikTok turns e-girl into a uniform, fishnets, pastel hair, and heart-shaped eyeliner, available to anyone with a smartphone. Even hip-hop, once a gritty voice of the streets, got polished up into top 40 playlists and branded sneakers. The more accessible subcultures became, the less they meant. When everyone's invited, the VIP list loses its punch. Look at the casualties. Golf went from a lifestyle of existential poetry and underground kicks to a fashion trends. Think chokers and black lipstick at Forever 21. Emo morphed from raw heartache and My Chemical Romance deep cuts into a punchline. Side bangs and skinny jeans sold at Urban Outfitters. It's not that the styles disappeared, they just got diluted into something safe, shiny and mass-produced. Subcultures used to be a middle finger to the mainstream. Now they are a sponsored Insta post. Traditional subcultures began to fully depend on social media, but in 2010s, platforms like Insta, Twitter, Sorry X, and TikTok didn't just amplify subcultures, they shattered them into a million algorithm-fed fragments. What we've got now isn't the tiny tribes of punk or rave, it's a kaleidoscope of micro-trends, remixed and spit out faster than you can say, for you page. The decline's real and I got some thoughts on why. First off, social media's algorithm-driven culture is the ultimate vibe killer. Back in the day, subcultures were cohesive. You had to show up, learn the ropes, and earn your stripes. Now, identity's a swipe away. Want to be a skater? Slap a treasure filter on your selfie. Goth? Post a black and white pic with a Lana Del Rey caption. There's no gatekeeping anymore. Anyone can adopt the look, the lingo, the playlist, all without ever stepping into the scene. Authenticity used to be the glue. Now it's optional. The result? Groups don't stick together. They dissolve into fleeting hashtags. Then there's big H words. Homogenization. Platforms like Insta and TikTok turn everything into aesthetic content. Perfectly curated, endlessly scrollable, and suspiciously similar. Punks ripped fishnets blend into e-girls pastel grunge, which blurs into cottagecore's floral dresses, all under the same ring light glow. It's less about rebellion or community, and more about likes. The DIY FS that built subcultures, zines, mixtapes, sweaty gigs, got swept for a consumption machine where trends live and die in a week. We're not joining subcultures anymore, we're just renting them. We're more in the decline, let's pivot. Something new brewing in the ashes of these old school subcultures. Say hello to the era of micro-cultures and hyper-specific online niches. We're talking cottagecore with its prairie dresses and sourdough obsessions, or dark academia with sweet blazers and philosophical Goodreads quotes. These aren't your usual hippies or your punks, they're bite-sized internet brats and oddly addictive. But are they subcultures or just vibes that vanish with the next algorithm tweak? Let's unpack it. The shift's wild. Traditional subcultures were big, bold, and built on shared spaces. Think punk's dive bars or hip-hop's block parties. Now it's all about hipper niche and hipper online. You've got communities like Goblin Core, think mushrooms, chaos, and hoarding crickets, or chaos gardening, ditching manicured lawns for wildflower anarchy, popping up on TikTok, Reddit, and Discord. They're tiny, obsessive, and global. Someone in Ohio straight on frog pics with a weird core fan in Tokyo. The internet's infinite scroll birthed these oddballs, and they thrive in the cracks of mainstream boredom. But here's the debate. Are these legit subcultures or just fleeting aesthetics? Old school groups had staying power, decades of music, fashion, and FS. These new ones? They're influencer-driven and content-fueled. Cottagecore queen on Insta might dictate the vibe. Linen aprons today, gowns tomorrow when she pivots to cluttercore. The community is less organic now. It's curated by creators with ring lights and affiliate links. The DIY spirit's there, kinda, but it's drowned out by the hum of consumption. Buy this candle to feel whimsical. Still, the specificity is charming. There's a tribe for every quirk. But does this shift even matter? How deep are we in this core hole? Hey, my sentimental, weirdos. We trace the rise, fall, and rebirth of subcultures. Weird rebirth. So why should we care about decline of old tribes? There's a nostalgia factor, sure, but it's deeper. Those subcultures were about exclusivity, rebellion, and finding your people in a world that didn't get you. Today's internet culture, think about it. Punks spitting in the face of Reaganomics, hippies flipping off the Vietnam drafts, goths brooding against pesto conformity. These were middle fingers to the mainstream, forged in real stakes and real spaces. They gave kids an identity when the world felt suffocating. Now TikTok hands you an aesthetic on a platter. 5 seconds of dark academia, vibes before you onto the next trend. It's consumption driven, not community driven. These communities lost the soul. Rebellion was traded for relatability. Yet, counterpoint time. Maybe subcultures aren't that, just shape-shifting. Microcultures like cottagecore or goblincore still offer escape, even if they are fleeting. They are not storming barricades, but they are carving out tiny pockets of weird in a homogenized digital sea. Is that enough? I'm torn. I miss the grit of earning your subcultural stripes, but I can't deny the charm of a niche that's just you. Maybe it's not worse, just different, like vinyl giving way to streaming. But of course, when we talk about all the fairy core, no judgment here. My fellow subculture explorers, we have made it to the end of the wild ride. We kicked off with the quirky chaos of emo kids and Tumblr fandoms, then traced the journey from beatniks smoking jazz vibes in the 50s to punks spiking the hair in the 70s, through the golden age of goth and skaters, and into the internet's double-edged sword, amplifying niches, then mainstreaming them into oblivion. Now we're left with microcultures blooming and fading like digital wildflowers. So what's the takeaway? Subcultures started as rebellions, raw, messy, and real, then got polished into TikTok trends and Pinterest racks. The decline left us with paradox, more access, less depth. Fragmented identities flicker in and out faster than a Wi-Fi signal. Or while cottagecore or dark academia are cute, they don't hit like punk or hip-hop once did. Are we worse off? Maybe there's something lost when rebellion turns into $5 sticker pack, or maybe it's just evolution. Subcultures adapt into a world where everyone's a creator, not just a joiner. I just adore all this chaos core. So here's my final thoughts. Subcultures might not be dead, they're just ghosts in the algorithm, haunting us with echoes of what was and whispers of what could be. Let's keep hunting for the weird, for real, wherever it hides. This is me signing off. Subscribe if you're still rocking that modern face or just here for the nostalgia vibe. Catch you in the next deep dive, bunnies.